Morning, good morning. All right, Proverbs chapter 17. We only got through one verse last week because we spent some time focusing on just the idea of contentment, being content with what we have, with what God has given us. And so now we move on. Okay. Whoop. Love my cup. A wise servant will rule over a son who causes shame and will share an inheritance among brothers. So a wise servant, and he's gonna rule over, rule over a son. So it was really common that slaves would help raise kids. That's the idea. Servant. Most Bibles, in fact, I was just doing a little research on the LSB translation. It's a new Legacy Standard Bible, newer translation, only a couple of years old. And they do some cool things I like. There's other stuff. There's other reasons why I'm not going to make it, my main Bible, but there's some stuff I really like about it. Sticking with the New King James. But they translate the Tetragrammaton, the covenant name of God, as Yahweh, not the Lord, which I think the Lord's fine, but it is Yahweh, so I like that. And then the other one, though, is that they don't translate. I know the New Testament. Actually, I didn't read about the Old Testament. I was reading that in the New Testament. Doulos is our Greek word, and it's almost always in almost all Bibles translated servant, but it's much more properly translated slave. We are slaves for Jesus, and that's the idea, though, right? That we're not just a servant who's coming to get paid. He paid for us to purchase us. And now we ought to do whatever the master tells us. And again, it's just a picture. It's not supposed to bring with it any of the negative ties to slavery, but as an illustration, right? This idea we're slaves. And so here, though, a slave would rule over the house, or son. I'm sorry. I'm yawning a lot this morning. I just haven't been talking at all, and so now that I'm talking with my mouth, it's making me want to yawn. But the slaves would train the kids, and it was their job. And so if he's doing his job, he's going to be watching over those kids. There's that Latin phrase, "in loco parentis," in place of parent, right? Teachers learn that because when you're a teacher, you're supposed to put yourself in the shoes of a parent as far as making loving and wise and beneficial decisions for the kids as if you were their parent, right? Not necessarily to cross lines that only parents should be doing, but the idea of I would treat them like they're my own kids and make good decisions as if they were my own kids. And so he's going to share the inheritance of his brothers. He's going to be well-loved and well-liked if he does his job and trains the kids up well. I don't know, I was just thinking about that, like the whole it takes a village to raise a child. And I don't know if it takes a village. I mean, it takes really just parents who are going to obey the Lord. But villages are helpful. It's very helpful to have a big group of people who are like-minded. By no means do I think our church is not like-minded. I would never say that. But, the more the church, not just Revival Church, but the church, was like-minded on parenting, then as kids did certain things, every adult in the church would know how to respond. That would be cool. Something I really liked when I taught out in Mattawa, I like this. I saw some good purpose behind it. In the middle school and the junior high, 5th through 8th grade, they were using a specific disciplinary program. And it was mandated to all teachers to use this program. And some teachers, and as a teacher, sometimes we don't like stuff from the top down, or can't do it our way, we got to do it their way. But what was really cool was that, kids come and go, right? It's like high school too, right? Where kids leave a class, go to a class. So they're seeing all these different teachers. And, it is a little confusing when one teacher is like this, the other teacher's like that. When one teacher worries about tardies. The other teacher doesn't care about tardies. When one teacher, you've got this when you're in trouble. The other teacher, it's that. Everyone had the same program. And even a substitute teacher could go through minimal instruction on how it works. And if they said, you've chosen step 1, boom. The kids knew exactly what was going on, and that was cool. And so again, this idea of with the servants are raising up the kids, and there's this unity in the body of Christ where we all kind of have the same understanding of biblical expectations. There's so much stuff that's unique to each family, and that's fine because it's not biblical. It's just, little things we like to teach our kids and how to do it. But it's great when, there's these expectations and everyone knows them. We've talked about some of those things in our church before too. Like, got to tell kids no running in the sanctuary. Well, if we get all the people on the same page, and I always say half an hour before and half an hour after church. Some of these kids show up hours before church starts and I cut them slack. And they're not just mine anymore. So it's, all right. It's rambling, I'm sorry. Let's teach the Bible. Verse 3, the refining pot is for silver, the furnace for gold, but the Lord tests the hearts. Here, I lost my place. Hearts, that's what I figured it is. So, yeah, God tests hearts. We talked about that in Job last night, how he's going to come out like gold. Heat it up, and then scrape off the dross. An evildoer gives heed to false lips. A liar listens eagerly to a spiteful tongue. Wicked people love to hear a little more wickedness. He who mocks the poor reproaches his maker. He who is glad at calamity will not go unpunished. There's a good reminder that everyone is made in the image of God. They're image bearers, which whether we like people or not, any people, terrorist people, pedophile people, any people, there's still a part where we recognize them being as image bearers made in the image of God and being deserving of that respect, right? There's a certain level that we have to keep in our minds. Children's children are a crown of old men, and the glory of children is their father. Grandchildren, right? That's the crown. You raise your kid up right, and they're raising their kids up right. And may I say this, it's not just physically having grandchildren. I think there's a crown in that, right? But the reality is that when you've raised your children well, and it's such a low bar just to have obedient children, well-behaved, and more well-behaved than anyone else that you hang out with, I would say that's still even a low bar. The greater bar is children who embrace not only your faith, but your philosophy of life because they saw it, they believed in it, and they trusted that it was a good way, them going through it, and that it works. And then from there, they wanted to do the exact same thing their parents did with their kids. And you start seeing your grandchildren being raised by those same principles. That's like a crown. That's something worth being proud of. And the glory of children is their father. And once again, I think that's the hard thing there is that there are so many different scenarios where dads are not in the picture. There are many times that's rightly so. It's sad, but it's probably better that dad's not in the picture. But regardless of that, it is the reality that kids have a love for their father and for their mother too. I almost think that the mother one just goes without saying. Like you almost don't have to mention it because but the dad. And when you look at the statistics of like what percentage of prison inmates were raised without a father, it's staggering. But it's because a dad plays that role, and it's an important role. And it's when we do things God's way, we try and teach our kids. Again, this is the whole training the children and that the children's children will follow step. When we do things God's way, well, we should have dads in the picture. We should. And it doesn't always work that way. I mean, and I speak from experience because I have a daughter from before my marriage with Nicole. And although I'm always around, I'm here for my daughter, it's not the same thing as having me in the house all the time with her whole life growing up. She had to go between houses, even in a scenario where there's having to go back and forth. That's not as extreme as a dad who's totally not there. But the emphasis is it's something that we just need to be cautious of and remember that young boys need mentors in their lives who can show them how to be a man. Young girls also can use godly men in their life to model the kind of man that they deserve. And so it's good for us just to be thinking about that. If there's not a father figure in the home, how can my children still benefit at least from a father figure? And you know what? Once again, the church. Just being at church, the kids will see godly men and women, both, right? That they can look up to. And so, once again, it's just that benefit of being in part of a church body. One that's seeking the Lord, one that's walking out their faith. It gives our kids people to look up to. And it also shows our kids that, mom and dad aren't crazy. It's like, no, there's lots of people living this way. There's lots of people who are embracing this lifestyle. 28, so 9. I'll go a few more verses. Excellent speech is not becoming of a fool, much less the lips of a prince. It's not becoming to a fool, much less lying lips to a prince. Okay, fools don't like good speech. Princes don't like lying. There we go. A present is a precious stone in the eyes of its possessor. Wherever he turns, he prospers. He who covers a transgression seeks love, but he who repeats a matter separates friends. Oh, maybe I'll just stop right in 9. We've already read a parallel. That's one thing in the book of Proverbs, is a lot of these verses are parallels. You'll see them again and again, maybe almost identical, if not, slightly reworded. But this is the general idea of slander and gossip. So he who repeats a matter separates friends. That's a little easier in that's gossip. When you hear something and you tell other people about it, that's gossip. And that's a no-no in the Bible. We don't gossip. If you want to be hardcore, tell other people not to gossip when they start gossiping to you. Just because you choose not to repeat it, take it a step further. Choose not to hear it. Whoa. Is what you're about to tell me going to be gossip? I would shock people to hear that. What? Yeah, I mean, you're telling me a story, but this is starting to sound like gossip. Are you going to gossip to me? Well, I was just going to, yeah, I don't want to hear it. Yeah, but you know what? If that's done in love, you're not being a jerk, but if that's done in love, that can have a powerful impact when people like, crap, he's right. I was gossiping. Uh-oh. Now, backing up, though, again, he who covers a transgression seeks love. Okay? Now, this is not about hiding your sin. Okay? And this is not about some bro covering up his buddy's sin so that people don't find out. Guy's cheating on his wife, and so the buddy's trying to come up with an alibi. That's like absolutely more sin. What this is stuff happens. Like stuff that maybe, it just covers a transgression. And again, the idea is this is just a perfect example. A couple is fighting, okay? They're having marriage problems. And you know about it because you're one of the close friends. You don't need to go tell anyone else. Hey, we got to pray for those guys. They're having marriage problems. Like, you know what? If they needed someone to pray for them, they could ask themselves. You know what you could even do? You could say, hey, I've got some friends, and I'm assuming like this is a scenario where it's not obvious, right? I've got some friends who need some prayer right now for their marriage. Can you pray for them? Which friends? My friends. That's all you need to know. Because here's the cool part. God knows, right? Now, sometimes I wish I had more details when I prayed, but sometimes I just need to pray out of obedience, knowing that God knows, and pray by faith that God will honor my prayer, even if I have no clue what I'm talking about. Right? And we read with the Holy Spirit, when we don't know what to say, he'll say it. Well, when we don't know what we're saying, that's the whole point, right? So that I don't know what to say. I'm saying stuff, I just don't know what I'm talking about. But you know what? They said, hey, they have friends that need prayer right now, and that's all they could tell me. So Lord, I know there's a lot of people in our church who need prayer right now. Just hear us out. You know their situations. You know what's going on. You know how many people there are. Hear our prayers. No gossip. No slander. Right? I'm seeking love. And that's the point. Is that there's a little sinful side of us that would be happy to share information with people that just doesn't need to be shared. And so maybe I could just challenge you all in closing on that. Is maybe you could meditate and chew on just how little information God needs in a prayer request. Now, if it's you and you have a tumor and you're going to the doctor on Thursday and you're getting a biopsy and you're getting right? You can share all that stuff all you want. That's fine. You don't need to limit your information. But if there's other people, and you know outright, they probably don't want what's going on broadcast, whether it's an individual who messed up in sin. I have a friend, and he confessed to me that he slipped up in sin the other night. Pray for him. Versus, can you guys be praying for Enrique? He's been struggling with gluttony. 2 nights ago, he ate 18 bags of Takis, and he feels very convicted. So that's the idea. You don't need to give every little detail to people. Now you're all going to be stumbled about Enrique and his Takis. So, all right. You guys take care, and I will see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning at 7:30. She's definitely hotter than my coffee. That's just been sitting for a little while. It's not quite lukewarm yet, but it's getting close. All right. You guys have a great day, and I'll be seeing you guys around.